because my first time seeing the Ford Mustang Cobra Jet 1400. Got my man Brian Novak from Ford Performance gonna walk me around and answer all my questions. As you know, we've been it's been an honor for us to build the Mach-E 1400. This is a vehicle built for a completely other purpose, fully built for drag racing, right, Brian?
Yeah, 100% drag racing. That's what this thing lives and breathes for. So the whole goal coming out of the box was to show that the performance level of electric can equal the performance level of that car back over there, and so far we've been really successful in that.
Yeah, so that is the gas-powered production Cobra Jet. How much power does that make, stock?
Somewhere around a little under 1,000 at the wheels. This thing's got 1,500 horsepower at the rear wheels.
Yeah, and do we know the torque numbers? Do we share those?
A little over 1,000, so.
A little over 1,000 horsepower of torque at the wheels. But instantaneous power. You guys have heard me talk about the mind-blowing acceleration of electric. So first of all, I love what you guys have done with the motors and like how it looks under there.
Yeah.
Like it's very reminiscent of a V8, but obviously not.
Yeah, it's a new version of that, really. So, I mean, the MLE race car guys did a beautiful job with this wire routing and everything in it, because there's a lot to it. It can be complex. So, in this case, we've got 2 motors on the top from Cascadia Motion, and then 2 motors below it from Cascadia Motion. So we got a total of 4 motors on the top. They're dual stacks is what we call them, so they're pancaked together. And then in the back, we've got a gearbox, a 1-to-1 summing gearbox. So essentially what it is that allows us to do is connect the 2 output shafts from those stacks and put it to a single output shaft in the transmission. So it actually runs the same transmission as in that gas Cobra Jet. So we can essentially bolt this into here and then run it on the same drive line.
2 stacked straight cut gears.
Yep, straight
that create
cut
one
gears.
single output.
Yep, exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, so that was a bit of work. We worked with SCS gearbox on that, do the tractor pull stuff.
Okay.
So it was, it's kind of the obvious answer to it. So, the inverter controllers. So we got 4 of those for the 4 motors. These are water cooled actually. The motors themselves are actually splash cooled. So on the run we actually don't get them hot enough. You can touch these when we get done with the run.
Oh really?
Yeah. So they're splash cooled. So they got a sump on the bottom and there's oil cooling, and it just splashes up. So there's no active system on that. But there is an active system on the inverters because we're pushing. These can do up to 700 amps in inverter. So a lot of power coming out.
How many volts is this running?
It's an 800 volt battery pack. So same as the Mustang Mach-E.
Yep. So how big is the battery?
The battery's about around 60 kilowatt hours.
Okay. So very similar.
Yeah, very similar to other car. Not intentionally, it just worked out that way. So yeah.
Yeah, the power density.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. So what do we got going on here?
So that is battery. So unlike the Mach-E that has the nice, skateboard battery on the bottom, you can just drop that whole battery out. A Mustang originally wasn't designed for this sort of thing. So it has a battery pack here, it has a battery pack in the back seat, and a battery pack in the trunk. So, it's a lot to do with, how much power you can get out of it, and ensure you have a lot of power down track too. So that's a big part of it, of getting consistent fast runs.
Yeah, got it. Nice, well you got to put the weight in places you want it. Obviously not always ideal in the front, but that was a huge benefit for us.
Yeah, on a drag car, it's not a bad thing to put a little weight up front. And this thing will also do 300-foot wheel stands down the track if you want it to.
I saw that, by the way.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It just lifts like it's like it's its job, which it is. It just lifts, and it's just a nice, smooth, puts it down, and just it's pretty rad to see. And it just takes off, and it's just like so silent, but has that amazing electric sound. It's so surreal because it's so new. You know what I mean? It's like, what is that?
Well, you get everything else out of it too. You hear what the tires doing. You hear all the thing. You hear every shift when it shifts, because it does shift. It does still have the transmission. So even though it is electric, everything's got its sweet spot you want it to be at. In this case, we're optimizing it exactly for what it wants to do.
So what are these?
So that's BMS system for battery management.
It's battery management system. Okay. So it looks like you got a lot of carbon on here. You got a carbon hood, carbon doors.
Yeah, so we've done a little lightweighting work on the car. So we do have a lot of carbon on the car, but that's just our job is to make it go as fast as we can make it go. You know Ford Performance and what we do. We're not here to make just a look good car. We're here to make it go. So everything on here has a purpose and why it's there, and we're trying to make this thing go as fast as we can.
So interior, very similar to Cobra Jet, but obviously I see you got the dash and the output that you're seeing on the dash is very different than a factory Cobra Jet?
Yeah. So in this case, we worked with AEM to do the control software for this. So it's got a motor controller, all the stuff there that we can do all how does it apply torque on the throttle, all those things. We can ramp that in, ramp that out, however we want to do it.
Yeah.
So we worked with AEM on that. So we got the 2 dashes in here. And that just allows us to just have this car that, and with the other car, there's so many things that you can do tunable on these cars, and they're so consistent that it lets us just do whatever we want from a tuning standpoint with the car.
Yeah.
From a driver perspective, you could drive that gas car and hop right into this car, and it's really no different. There's a couple little staging things different for doing the burnout, but in reality, there's no difference driving this car than that gas car.
Oh.
So you can hop right in from one to the other. So we put Bob Task in the car at NHRA, at US Nationals and at Gator Nationals, and he had to get used to wheel standing again because he hasn't done that in a long time. But the controls and everything, there's nothing trick about this. You can get in here and drive this. You can drive that. You can drive this.
Nice. What is this? I see it says vehicle pitch rate.
So one of our engineers took a little time to that'll show the angle on the wheelie.
Really?
Yeah. So when the car stands up, this actually will move and show what it's doing from a wheelie angle.
Not that the driver's looking at it, but it's more for your guys' data.
Yeah, we see the data for the pitch, and we just animate it on the dash to show something cool for the cameras when the cameras are on.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Dang. Yeah, it seems really nice. They did a really nice job on it.
Yeah, so they've done a good job, and just a beautiful job with it. And Watson did the cage.
Did you build the cage around the battery?
No, so that it's not easy to service.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tough to get in and out of there, but you can. Just the way the NHRA safety rules are and everything, we got to meet all those. And that's one of the things we're working with all the sanctioning bodies on. How do you handle these things coming in all the time now, because it's going to be more and more of them.
I love that you guys are at the front of it, helping them figure out the rules, because no one knows,
Yeah, that's a big part of working with MLE. They've done a lot of electric cars, and Pat McHugh and Jeff Lane, and they've worked with NHRA on battery solutions and safety solutions and all that, and so we can just push that forward.
So there's the other battery. It's pretty wild seeing them apart. So in the 1400, the Mach-E 1400, we were lucky, like Ryan mentioned, have kind of like a skateboard set up where you just can drop it out and put it in right in the lower portion, right in between the wheels. And they had to separate it out a bit here to make it work. So
yeah, so this one drops right out the bottom.
Okay.
Where you just put up a hoist and you pull it down from the bottom, similar to the other car.
Yeah.
And the other one, the front one, the middle one's the one you gotta give it a little bit more effort to get out of the car.
So the big question everybody asks, everyone's gonna ask, how fast are we going?
So we've done 827 in private testing at 168 miles an hour. We've had passes over 170. Earlier today we did an 830 on the car.
Okay.
So,
yeah, and I saw 837 yesterday.
Yeah, at 837, we had 833 this morning and 830 just after that. So.
Yeah, and I think before long we're gonna see these guys in the 7s with this thing. So pretty impressive.
We got our goals.
Yeah, I'm calling it. Sweet. Well, thank you for sharing that. What a beautiful thing, and I'm gonna sucker him into let me drive it one of these days.
Hey, we'll get them both together one time. We'll see who wins.
Oh, that'd be so good. Sweet. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Brian.